besides and roleplay are a welcome or suffice. So step inside, get ready to roll with Paulie Eagle Paradise.
Oh, almost nailed it. Was trying to time it perfect. Oh man, first stream in what seems like forever. Oh my goodness. You're about to enter a world of imagination. A world where battles are fought on hex maps and grids, whether virtually or in person. Spells are cast, swords clash, and even the toughest problems can be solved with a little ingenuity and a lot of luck. From power gamers to role players, all are welcome here. Hell, even 4th edition has a seat at the table. But things are a little shaky in the world of the name that will not be mentioned here. With dice in hand and a heart full of adventure, I'd like to welcome you all to this polyhedral paradise. What is up, everybody? Oh my goodness, it feels like forever and a day since I've been here. Forever and a day. Oh man, but we got some things to talk about. As you can see from the title there, we're going to be talking about Dungeon 23, a new for 2023 event that the tabletop role-playing game community is taking part in. You understand why I parse my words a little more carefully these days. Because thank you very much. I was just about to ask that. Let me know. Let me know how that is. It's hard to tell without the monitor, because I found that the monitor messes with the performance of the speakers. But anyway, okay, thank you so much, Binky. So I'd like to say hi to everybody in the chat. Captain Pennsylvania, my co-host, who will be joining us again, not necessarily tonight, but he'll be joining us again shortly, coming back, doing these live streams. Binky, the ever beautiful, my rock, on which my D&D kingdom, said D&D, which my RPG kingdom is built on. Cleet, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for making it out on this first one back. So yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about 23andMe, which is a very, very interesting project, and we're going to get into the tea with Wizards of the Coast, and why I'm reticent to use the name D&D anymore. When, baby, things got hot since the first of the year. Oh man, things got hot. Like DNA. Yeah, things got hot, baby. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast and the Open Gaming License, the move to 6th edition. Yeah, we're gonna get into all that. But first, I want to get a little housekeeping out of the way. For this week only, we'll be streaming on YouTube. After that, I think we're gonna move the live streams for Dungeon 23 to another platform, and then upload the videos onto YouTube. Just because YouTube isn't the best place to go for live streams. So, you know, when I explain what Dungeon 23 is, you'll understand. You understand why we're gonna move it, because it's gonna be a daily streaming activity. So I guess the first thing I want to do is toast to all of you out there. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. I said I'd be back after the first of the year, and I kept my word. A few days later than I wanted to, but you know, stuff happens. So here's Nostrovia, to health and wealth and prosperity for all of you out there. So what is Dungeon 23? I know Cap wanted me to get into the tea first, but I'm not going to get into the tea just yet, because I want to explain what Dungeon 23 is first. So, somebody didn't put their phone on silent. Excuse me one second. Wow, you know, New Year, same old screw-ups. The phone always goes on silent when you live stream. Always. And now it is. So what is Dungeon 23? Okay, Dungeon 23 is a project. Cap, you tease. Let me see. Here's a little feature I want to see if I can do it. I should be able to highlight your comment. Oh, I can't. That's so weird. I can't figure out why I can't do that. Well, I'll work on that. I'll work on that some other time. But anyway, Captain Pennsylvania called me a tease. Nah, you know what happens. So I don't know if any of you out there are familiar with the concept of a mega dungeon. Back in the old days when D&D was basically exploration and gathering loot, you had your dungeons, which were fine and dandy, filled with monsters and loot. But you also had your mega dungeons. Mega dungeons were sprawling, huge subterranean, cavernous dungeons that just went on and on and on, and it would take many sessions for you to get through. You'd have to plan resource management, you'd have to plan ways back out in case you ran out of resources. So what Dungeon 23 is, where people in the TTRPG community are going to, throughout the year, build their own mega dungeons using the following parameters. You're going to build one room a day for the entire year, all 365 days. Excuse me, I don't have a cough button. And the way you're going to do that is it's going to be 12 levels, each level representing a month. And then at the end of the year, you're going to end up with a 12-level dungeon comprised of 365 rooms. So I've decided to take part in it and build my own mega dungeon. And I'm going to do it live. Some streams may only take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Some streams may take longer, depending on what we get into. And what we're going to use to build that is, let's see, we're going to go show you right here. Good old handy dandy Dungeon Alchemist. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dungeon Alchemist is a AI assisted map maker, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes, because I know Cap wants to get to some of the tea, and I believe Cleet wants to know what's going on too. So we'll come back to Dungeon 23 after we talk about the goings on Wizards of the Coast, because I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if we didn't at least touch on what's going on with the Open Gaming License and why the whole community is up in arms, and why I have removed every single reference to Dungeons and Dragons on my stream, and will probably not be mentioning them by name very much. So let's go back to this here. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So as you know, Dungeons and Dragons is in 5th edition. Man, Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast is not just messed up Dungeons and Dragons, but Magic the Gathering is floundering too. But anyway, Dungeons and Dragons is in the 5th edition right now. Back in the move to 2nd edition to 3rd edition, they created what's called the Open Gaming License. Now, before the Open Gaming License existed, when D&D was still with TSR was extremely litigious. Like, if you tried to release a project that even smelled like Dungeons and Dragons, TSR as a company would come after you. And that wasn't really good for the hobby. It was really restrictive. You know, it was like D&D or nothing. If you weren't playing with the D&D rule set, you weren't playing D&D. Now, there's a couple different reasons for that. Initially, Gary Gygax said that, you know, anytime you get dice and a pen and paper, you're playing D&D. But when he got ousted from the company, and hey, Ball, when he got ousted from the company and tried to go out on his own, and, well, not tried to go out on his own, he was forced to go out on his own, TSR real quick became litigious and sued anybody who, like I said, who even remotely reminded them of Dungeons & Dragons. But Wizards of the Coast bought Dungeons & Dragons from TSR in 2000. And they're going to produce their new version, let's say 3.0. So they had the great idea that in order to grow the game, to grow the hobby, to grow the brand, they would release what's called an OGL, an Open Gaming License. Well, actually, they would release an SRD, which is a systems reference document, which basically is the rule set. Like, if you want to play Dungeons & Dragons, or you want to play this role-playing game, these are the rules. It was just a couple pieces of paper that gave you strength, dexterity, hit points, all the core stats, all the creatures, and it told you what you could and you couldn't use to produce something on your own that was compatible with 3rd edition. So that's what the system reference document and the open gaming license did. It allowed third parties to come in and create their own content for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, you couldn't use the words D&D. You couldn't use specific names. Copyrights, the copywritten stuff still applied. But you could use the system to create your own things. And because of that, the hobby blew up. Monsters were in it. Yeah. I saw some old school Rolodex. Cap, come back to that old school Rolodex thing. Yes, that was the Monsters compendiums look like Rolodexes, but I'm getting sidetracked. Sorry. So you can take the open gaming license and create content for 3rd edition and eventually 3.5 and release it and sell it and make money off of it as long as you didn't break copyright. So because of that, the hobby exploded. People were creating supplements. You had things like Sword and Sorcery created a whole bunch of 3rd edition compatible stuff. I have a lot of books back here that are third party books that were completely compatible with 3rd edition, and a lot of great stuff came out, and you could just take it and use it with Dungeons and Dragons. As a matter of fact, on a lot of the books, it actually says in order to use this material, you need the 3rd or 3.5 edition of the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide. So it actually, in that way, you could mention Dungeons and Dragons. You just couldn't have the name D&D on it, like associated with your product. The only thing you had to do was put in this 2-page list at the end that basically listed the OGL. Basically gave you the green light to produce that stuff. So hobby grew because of that, and that's still in effect. Now, when the only time that was ever called into question was during the move of 3.5 to 4th edition. Now, when and there's an interesting correlation between the move to 4th edition and the move to 1 D&D that they're moving to now. But we'll put a pin in that. We'll circle back around to it. So from the move to 3.5 to 4th edition, they changed a whole bunch of stuff, and they didn't get rid of the OGL because technically you can't get rid of it. But they said that in order to create content for 4th edition, you would have to use different. It was I forget what it was called. I'm sorry, but it was a different type of document that was extremely restrictive. It did not have the openness of the OGL. You had to sign into it. It was a lot more restrictive. So because of that, nobody created third-party content for 4th edition. And in fact, because of the move to 4th edition, I know a lot of you probably already know this, but for those who don't, it actually created Dungeons and Dragons' biggest competitors. Paizo said, "Screw 4th edition. We don't like 4th edition." They were already creating content for 3.5. So what they said is, "We're just going to keep creating content, but we're going to rebrand it as Pathfinder." Because at that point, they could create whatever they wanted to under this under the OGL. So that's how Pathfinder was born. Pathfinder was born out of a desire to not move on to the next version of the SRD, but it wasn't an SRD. But anyway, so D&D inadvertently created their biggest competitor. Now, Paizo eventually would move away from the rule set with Pathfinder 2E, but for the sake of our discussion, let's just say that they basically created D&D 3.75, and they flourished. At one point in time in 2014, 2010 to 2014, I believe Pathfinder took over. It leapfrogged them for a while in market share. They actually, so because of a restrictive, this is important, because of a restrictive open gaming license, not open gaming license for 4th edition, they actually created their biggest competitors. And that's an important thing to remember because when we talk about what's coming up here now, you'll see why that's relevant. So when 5th edition came around, when 4th edition flopped, and the interesting thing about 4th edition is 4th edition was a little ahead of its time. When 4th edition was developed, it was actually developed to work in conjunction with a virtual tabletop, but they were never able to implement the virtual tabletop, so the rule set for 4th edition looked really weird when you were playing in person. But if they were to have implemented the virtual tabletop to go along with it, 4th edition probably would have done a whole lot better. But at the time, they just didn't get it going, so everybody hated 4th edition. So then when they brought 5th edition back around, they went back to the OGL, and it was pretty much the same version. I believe it was OGL 1.0A. Like, this thing really hasn't, it's 900 words long, and it had not been like overhauled since 2000, since it was implementation. Just a little tweaking here and there. So keep in mind that this thing was out way before anything like Kickstarters or crowdfunding or online gaming. It was out way before any of that stuff. It's pretty important to remember. Now, there's a lot of people. I just want to stop here for a second. There's a lot of people who have done like really deep dives on all this stuff, and like I thought, because I don't want to focus on it too much, I'm not gonna like dig into the weeds on it. I just want to give you guys like a broad overview so you understand what's going on. So, I can recommend a lot of videos where they really get deep into this if you want, but that's neither here nor there. So 5th edition, they go back to the open gaming license, and again, 5th edition takes off, and it's the game. Obviously, I don't have to tell anybody who's here. The game had a renaissance, like bigger than at any point in their history. You had third-party creators coming out of the woodwork to create supplements, and you had people like Cobalt Press, Ghostfire Gaming, like create entire companies using the OGL, because to be honest with you, I look at Wizards of the Coast a lot in the same way I look at like Bethesda. Like, yeah, you put out a decent product, but it really, like, you put it on the community to make the really good stuff, you know? Like, Bethesda puts out a game, like, half-finished or whatever, and you get the modders and everything to come out and really create all these add-ons that just really, like, take the game to another level. Well, that's kind of what it was like with Wizards of the Coast, too. They created a base game, and it was okay and everything, but the community took it and ran, and they created some awesome products, and it was all okay. It was all well and good because they were using the OGL, the Open Gaming License. As long as they didn't mention certain copywritten things by name, you could sell your products. Now, there was a couple different ways they could do that. They could sell it on their own, and take all the profits. Hey, Wells, what's up, my man? And take all the profits, or you could actually have a little less restrictions on you, name a little bit more of licensed D&D material, and sell it on DM's Guild. Now, the DM's Guild, what would happen there is you sign a contract with the DM's Guild. DM's Guild gets 50% of the profits, and you get 50% of the profits. At least, I believe that's what the numbers are. I personally have never tried to sell anything on the DM's Guild, so as far as I understand, those are the numbers. So, excuse me. So that's all well and good, and you have gotten you got all these companies that sprang up that have now made their living off of creating content for the world's greatest role-playing game. You can't mention it by name, but it's the world's greatest role-playing game. Everybody knows what it is. It's 5e compatible. So, you know, even people like Critical Role have developed, you know, their own books using the 5e rules, which is kind of funny. They originally started out as Pathfinder, but you moved to D&D. But it's, you know, it's really great because you can make content for something, and you don't have to become huge yourself in order to benefit from the success of D&D. And everybody loves D&D. Like, D&D is synonymous with role-playing games. You know, like, you could say, yeah, I'm going to go play D&D. And people know what you're talking about, but you could be playing other systems. Like you could be playing Numenera, you could be playing Vampire the Masquerade, and people still use D&D for shorthand. So like D&D is like, you know, that's it, right? You know, that's when people say you're playing D&D, they know what you're talking about. It's and I wager to say that there's probably only a small group of people out there who actually play D&D, rules as written, off the bookshelf. Everybody plays it modded. Everybody plays with third-party supplements, whether you're buying third-party supplements, getting share-alike content, or your friends develop something. I mean, homebrew's technically third-party, but like D&D is primed to be modded and uses third-party basically. So that's great. It built the game to where it is now. So it's funny because things like D&D Beyond actually exist, which I know you guys know what D&D Beyond is, but for the longest time, D&D Beyond did not have official affiliation with Wizards of the Coast, and even they were allowed to use the ampersand and the name D&D, and like they had special dispensation with them, but you know that's how freewheeling and fancy free it is. I mean, it's like the summer of love around here in the gaming industry. It's like, you know, but you know, that the game got big, and you know, Hasbro started looking and started looking at the amount of money that Kickstarters are making and the amount of money that these other companies are making, and they're like, well, wait a minute, you know, we're not getting any of that money. All these other companies aren't paying us anything off of the, like, RIP basically. Then you know, you start. I'm sure the seeds of doubt in this whole thing started brewing. But so then, a few months back, Wizards of the Coast announced that they were going to be working on a new. I'm sorry, I can't call it a new edition. They were going to be working on an update to 5th edition, not a new edition, and it was going to be called 1D&D. 1D&D is supposedly completely backwards compatible with 5th edition. They're going to do away with editions. Everything now, it's just, we're real happy with the rule set, but everything now is just going to be updates to 5th edition. We're going to call it 1D&D, completely backwards compatible. It's very important that that you remember that they keep saying it's backwards compatible, so after they announce that, they give you the breakdown of what it's going to look like, and it's going to include with it D&D's very own licensed virtual tabletop, which, you know, on the surface, that seems great, right? Sorry, I forgot that was there. So it's going to come with this very own official tabletop, which is going to use the Unreal Engine. It's going to be fantastic looking, but you start to call into question, then what about all the other third-party tabletops? Once Wizards of the Coast bought D&D Beyond and said that they're going to make their own tabletop, you kind of start thinking, like, what about Roll20? What about all these other virtual tabletops that have been able to just exist? You know, are they gonna start getting squeezed out? You know, it's kind of raised a little bit of an eyebrow there. And then people started thinking, well, what about the open gaming license? You know, are we with the move to the new edition? How's it gonna affect the OGL? Isn't it? And like, for the longest time, nobody really said anything about it. And then there was this investors meeting, and let's go take a look at this real quick here. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. All right. Yep, sorry. Here we go. If you look up here, at this article right here. Wizards of the Coast says Dungeons and Dragons is under monetized. Now, this is in December 19th of last year. Okay. During an investor meeting, Wizards of the Coast claimed Dungeons and Dragons is currently under monetized. In the near future, it seems like Wizards of the Coast wants to capitalize on the brand to create recurrent spending environment within Dungeons and Dragons. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox and Wizards of the Coast CEO Cynthia Williams recently participated in a fireside chat with their investors. During the presentation, Williams stated that while Dungeons and Dragons has never been more popular and that engagement is at an all-time high, market data shows that the platform itself was built to undersell its products to the audience. The company made $1.3 billion last year, but it's under monetized. You imagine gathering people, you'll recognize that. Let's see. This is largely because most Dungeons & Dragons books are marketed towards dungeon masters who only make up about 20% of the population. Wizards of the Coast seems intent on changing that. D&D Beyond already features individualized monetization with purchasable cosmetic dice and avatars and content, and Dungeons & Dragons is in developed virtual tabletop will undoubtedly continue this. With the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie and Baldur's Gate 3 coming out in 2023, it's clear Wizards of the Coast is seeking to transform dragons and dungeons into a multimedia franchise with more options for profit as it seeks to create recurrent spending environment that reaches more fans. Dungeons & Dragons is also currently developing D&D 1, a new evergreen version of 5th edition. The rules expansion claims to be backwards compatible with its predecessor while involving the game in ways that safeguard it for future use. However, rumors of 1D&D discontinuing the open gaming license has many Dungeons & Dragons homebrew content creators concerned, despite Wizards of the Coast promise to continue the support of thousands of creators making third-party content. 4th edition was largely unsuccessful because Wizards of the Coast abolished the OGL and inundated its market with way too many products. The possibility that Wizards of the Coast may be repeating both of these mistakes with 1D&D has many players understandably alarmed. Considering Wizards of the Coast were called out for over-monetizing Magic the Gathering, it is discouraging to see it do the same with Dungeons & Dragons. So, Wizards of the Coast is severely under-monetized. Slash, what's up, buddy? Right, severely under-monetized. So, moving to digital, how do you fix that, right? Well, you fix that by chat's not showing up. Excuse me, guys. There it is. You fix that by making 1D&D move to D&D Beyond, right? You start selling not only the physical copies of the books, but you offer the digital copy of the books. Move everybody into D&D Beyond, right? Once everybody's into D&D Beyond, and you have them used to your platform, you have them used to buying books there, you have them used to using your tabletop. Of course, people are going to want their minis that you provide to match what's going on in the campaign. So, I just found this scale mail shirt in this dungeon, but it's blue. Oh, you want to buy a digital blue chainmail shirt for your mini? That'd be $1.99. You need your +2 longsword that glows in the dark to match on your mini? That'll be $1.99. Oh, you got the Curse of Strahd playset. That's great, but now we have an updated Curse of Strahd playset. So it's got 4 more levels to the castle. Get your specific skins for your specific monsters. They are going to move everything into D&D Beyond and charge everybody out the ass recurrent spending just to play a tabletop role-playing game. They are going to do to Dungeons and Dragons what they've already done to video games. It's ridiculous. This is a tabletop role-playing game that focuses on your imagination, and they are going to have everybody believing that unless you're playing on Wizards of the Coast Virtual Tabletop, using all of their books. We're going to get to the open gaming license in a second, and playing on their tabletop with their minis, and your character doesn't look exactly like it looks in your head, you're not playing D&D. They're going to suck every freaking penny out of players because they can. Because people are going to walk right into it. Because once one person starts using D&D Beyond with this cool tabletop that uses the Unreal Engine that looks like you're playing a freaking video game, once your friends start doing it, of course you're going to want to do it. Could you imagine, like, oh, I don't have a mini, and people are going to look at you with side eye that you're playing with these groups, and everybody's got the 16 different 16 different versions of the skeletons, that everything's gotta match and like match what's in your imagination, but you're never going to be able to buy enough stuff to match what your imagination does. It is predatory. And they basically say that they're going to do it. They want to create a recurrent spending. There's like, if you're sitting there with a book at your table with your friends, there's no way to monetize that. They got to suck you in. And once you spend enough money into D&D Beyond, and somebody's like, hey, let's go play Vampire the Masquerade, you're like, no, man, no. I got $400 on these minis here. Yeah, I know they're a business. Yeah, I know they're a business, but when you blatantly put it out there, when you call your hobby under monetized, and you put out crap ass content like this stuff that anybody who thinks is Spelljammer was worth the money that it was charged, when they didn't even have rules for space combat in it. How do you put out Spelljammer without rules for space combat? No, you know what? If you want the rules for space combat, they're going to give you an errata for it, but they're going to charge you $4.99 for it. They're going to put out incomplete books and then charge you for frickin' errata. But you're going to have to do it, because if you buy Spelljammer the book, they're not going to release like, oh, here's a new version. No, because they're not going to want to waste all that money for print, because the books stay on the shelves. No, in order to get it, you're going to have to be a member of D&D Beyond. But guess what? Now it's a subscription. Now you got another subscription fee. Because by the time they get to that, they may not even charge for the books in the future. Who knows? With one D&D, they may say, you know what, the books are free, but you got to pay $12.99 a month. Yes, they are following the video game DLC path. Yes, which is why, and when we get to the stuff about the open gaming license, this is the real nail in the coffin with the stuff that's been coming out in the past couple weeks. That's the real nail in the coffin. I am not. This isn't a D&D channel anymore. It's not. I've stripped all the D&D stuff from all my streams. This is just a tabletop role-playing game. I love D&D. I'm still gonna play it, but I can't support it anymore. I just no. Like, get your money elsewhere. Like, I just can't do it. I love D&D. I'm a sucker for the ampersand, but I'm a sucker for, I don't know. This is just, it's predatory and it's disgusting. And also, I can get on my rant about virtual tabletop sucking the imagination out of people. He's like, I believe they do. And like, basically D&D is going to become a real-time video game. That's all it's going to become. Like, people are going to lose their ability to create these scenes in their mind when they're forced to look at an Unreal Engine. And by God, if you don't have exactly what they're trying to say, they will be offering loot boxes as well. I guarantee it. Man, I'm getting all sweaty here. Sorry. But it's disgusting. And this is all with the move to 1D&D. But yeah, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to use our virtual tabletop. But, but ours is the coolest. And why not? Because you're already using D&D Beyond. Ours is, this is the only place you can go use official content. Haha. And here we go. So let's move on to our next point. Which I think all of this about getting locked into a recurrent spending, that's kind of been Grognard Diaries. Yeah, okay. You know, at this point, this isn't just me, which is crazy because, like, this is bad. This is horrible PR for him. Like, when we get in, I'm gonna pull up some tweets and everything. Like, it's bad. Like, the House of Cards that is Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons, man, if they do not watch it, they're like, people are mass exodusing, which I think, to be honest with you, a little conspiratorial hat up here, I don't think they're that upset about it. Because what I think they want to do is get the people who are going to be vocal about all this stuff, I think they want to get them moving on to other systems so that you get the influx of new players who don't know the difference. And those younger players are used to loot boxes, and they're used to recurrent spending on Modern Warfare, Exodai, there you go. They're used to recurrent spending on loot boxes and Modern Warfare and all that, and they'll just do it. And they'll probably lose a certain percentage of their player base, but they'll make it up. So, all right, let's move on. So that's the there. Oh, there we go. All right, so let me just pull it right on up here. Let's see. All right. No, that's not the right one. Excuse me. Sorry, a little rusty here. Just a little rusty. All right, so then there was the big call. You can look at this article right here. There was a big concern about the Open Gaming License and whether or not the SRD was still going to be available for the new edition of the game. So, of course, you know, they hear you, right? We hear you. Well, don't worry, it's still going to be in effect. So, Wizards of the Coast released this through D&D Beyond. I'm just going to read this here. We love the interest and passion the community has for D&D. We love D&D too. So when we see the community concerned by rumors and misunderstandings, we want to clear the air and share the facts with you, even if it's a bit earlier than our original plan. This is from December 21st. I got to back up here for a second. For a while, there was rumors that Wizards of the Coast were reaching out to certain content creators and offering them information on the OGL in exchange for them signing a NDA. There was a couple of people who reported that. No actual evidence to that was ever presented. Could have been true. At this point now, it looks like it was true. But moving on, this is Wizards of the Coast response. You matter to all of us, and we want to provide transparency on how D&D will continue supporting third-party creators, so here are the facts. Will one D&D include an SRD, system reference document, be covered by an OGL? Yes! First, we're designing one D&D with 5th edition backwards compatibility. There's that again. And if you look at the rules set, it's not backwards compatible. So all existing creator content that is compatible with 5th edition will also be compatible with D&D 1. It's very important here. They laying the groundworks for the two systems being interconnected. You'll understand why in a minute. First, we're designing one D&D with 5th edition backwards compatibility, so all existing creator content that is compatible with 5th edition will also be compatible with 1 D&D. Second, we will update the SRD for 1 D&D as we complete its development. Development that is informed with the results of the playtest that we are conducting with hundreds of thousands of D&D players right now. Okay, well, 40,000 people filled out the playtest results, so not exactly hundreds of thousands. 2, will the OGL terms change? Yes. We will release 1.1 of the OGL in early 2023. The OGL needs an update to ensure that it keeps doing what it's necessary for it to do. Allow the D&D community's independent creators to build and play and grow the game we love without allowing things like third parties to mint D&D NFTs and large businesses to exploit our intellectual property. Those nasty NFTs. You can't have people minting D&D NFTs. So what's changing? First, we're making sure that OGL 1.1 is clear about what it covers and what it doesn't cover. OGL 1.1 makes clear it only covers material created for use intended in TTRPGs, and those materials are only ever permitted as printed media, static electronic files like EPUBs or PDF, Other type of content, like videos and video games, are only possible through Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or a custom agreement with us. To clarify, outside of printed material and static electronic files, the OGL does not cover it. Does not cover it. What's up, Fran? Good to see you, buddy. Will this affect D&D content and services players use today? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. That's what they say. The top VTT platforms already have custom agreements with Wizards to do what they do. D&D merchandise, like minis and novels, were never intended to be part of the OGL, and OGL 1.1 won't change that. Creators wishing to leverage D&D for those forms of expression will need, as they always have, a custom agreement between us. Yeah. Second, we are updating the OGL to offer different terms to creators who choose to make free share-alike content and creators who want to sell their products. If you're making commercial content, relatively little is going to change for most creators. Relatively little is going to change for most creators. That means some things are going to change for some creators. For most of you who are selling custom content, here are a few things you need to do. Now, already they're creating a two-tiered system. By their words, a two-tiered system is completely different than the existing OGL. It's one OGL, covers everybody. Now, you're already seeing a bifurcation of there's a two-tier system. So here's what you have to do. Accept the license terms and let us know what you're offering for sale. Okay, accepting a license is not an open gaming license. Accepting a license is opting into a contract. Report the OGL related revenue annually if you make more than $50,000 in a year. If you make more than $50,000 a year, you got to report it. And this is what they're saying. Now, some of the Kickstarters. I know you guys have seen Kickstarters that trip over $100,000. I mean, most of your D&D Kickstarters, if you're a mid-level name, like, you're making that much money. 3, include a creator product badge on your work. When we roll out OGL 1.1, we will also provide explanatory videos, FAQs, and a web portal for registration to make navigating these requirements easy and as intuitive as possible. We will also have help available to creators to navigate the new process. For the fewer than 20 creators worldwide, Paizo, Cobalt Press, who make more than $750,000 in income a year, we will add a royalty starting in 2024. So even after the creators making significant money selling D&D supplements and games, no royalties will be due for 2023, which is good because D&D 1 isn't out till 2024 anyway, so why would you get royalties? And the revenue below $750K in future years will be royalty free. Bottom line, the OGL is not going away, except it's no longer an open gaming license because you got to opt in its 3 tiers. You will still be able to create new D&D content, publish it anywhere, and game with your friends and followers in all the ways that make this game and community so great. The thousands of creators publishing across Kickstarter, DM's Guild, and more are a more critical part of the D&D experience, and we continue to support and encourage them to do that through One D&D and beyond. Okay, so that's the statement that they made. They made this, let's see, December 21st. And people were like, that's something doesn't seem right there. Oh, darn it, there's a map again. Sorry. Rusty fingers. So something doesn't seem right there. Already, it's not an open gaming license anymore, right? It's not an open gaming license if you got to opt in. But, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't seem too bad. On its face, this doesn't seem too bad. However, this was sort of what we got for a while. Until a few days ago, when more of the OGL, the new OGL 1.1 started to leak. And then, let's go. I'm going to bring this article up so you guys can see it. All right, let's see. Let's see, which one is it? Sorry, guys. Excuse me for a second here. Okay. This was dropped yesterday at 2:57 p.m. Now, a lot of people said that something doesn't seem right. There's people are hearing rumblings that it's going to be more restricted than you think. Ted from Nerd Immersion did a video on it. A lot of people started doing videos on it. They keep using the term backward compatible. I don't think it means what they think it means. That's quickly. This is true. So this dropped by Linda Codega from Gizmodo. And this thing blew the lid off of this whole situation. I'm going to read the article verbatim because it's very important that you hear everything here. Dungeons & Dragons' new license tightens its grip on competition. An exclusive look at Wizards of the Coast's new open gaming license shows efforts to curtail competitors and tighten control on creators of all sizes. The new Dungeons & Dragons open gaming license, a document which allows a vast group of independent publishers to use basic game rules created by D&D owner Wizards of the Coast, significantly restricts the kind of content allowed and requires anyone making money under the license to report their products to Wizards of the Coast directly, according to analysis of leaked draft document dated mid-December. So this would have been the document that went out under NDA in mid-December. The one that people got if they signed on the dotted line. Despite reassurances from Wizards of the Coast last month, the original OGL will become an unauthorized agreement, and it appears no new content will be permitted to created under the original license. So that means they are going to, with the release of 1.1, they're going to invalidate the OGL that has been around since 2000, which means that people who were creating content under that OGL since 2000 will no longer, it doesn't affect it retroactively, they can't go back and pull the stuff, but they can no longer create content under the pre-existing OGL. They have to, if they want to create content, do so under 1.1. So you're tracking here, right? So Paizo, Ghostfire Games, all these other companies can no longer produce content under the previous OGL. The original OGL is what many contemporary tabletop publishers use to create their products within the boundaries of D&D's reproducible content. Much of the original OGL is dedicated to the system resource document and includes characters, species, classes, equipment, and most importantly, general gameplay structures, including combat, spells, and creatures. The creation of OGL version 1.0, which was originally published in 2000, has allowed a host of outside designers and publishers, both amateur and professional, to make new products for a game that remains entirely owned by Hasbro's subsidiary Wizards of the Coast, which hereto will be referred to as wotc. While this arrangement sometimes created products that directly competed with wotc publications, it also allowed the game to flourish and grow thanks to the resources created by the wider D&D community. In 2022, when Wizards of the Coast announced plans to develop a revised edition, codenamed 1D&D, the company said it would update the OGL, but the original OGL 1.0 had essentially remained intact until the company said it would develop 1.1. What's in the new 1.1? A lot, actually. While the original Open Gaming License is a relatively short document, coming in at under 900 words, the new draft of OGL 1.1, which was provided to IO9 by Wizards of the Coast developer, it is over 9,000 words long. 10 times the size. I think it's very important that I mention that one part, because this is still conjecture, because nobody has seen the document, but there have been a lot of things that have been corroborated. So pretty sure that this is true. Let's see. It addresses new technologies like blockchain and NFTs and takes a strong stance against bigoted content, explicitly stating that the company may terminate the agreement if third-party creators publish material that is blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, and otherwise discriminatory. So, basically grimdark. I guess if they don't like your content, if they think you're coming after somebody, they can cancel you. One of the biggest changes to the document is that it updates previously available OGL 1.0 to state that it is no longer an authorized licensed agreement. By ending the original OGL, many licensed publishers will have to completely overhaul their products and distribution in order to comply with the updated rules. Large publishers who focused almost exclusively on products based on the original OGL, including Paizo, Cobalt Press, and Green Ronin, will be under pressure to update their business model incredibly fast. This is no mistake. According to the document procured by IO9, the new agreement states that the open game license was always intended to allow the community to help grow D&D and expand it creatively. It wasn't intended to subsidize major competitors, especially now that PDF is by far the most common form of distribution. Booyah! Man, the statement is reiterated later in the document. The OGL wasn't intended to fund major competitors, and it wasn't intended to allow people to make D&D apps, videos, or anything other than printed or printable materials for use while gaming. We are updating the OGL in part to make that very clear. Think Stellasta, Crown of the Magister. Wells, I think you played that, right? A lot of people said that that's a better D&D game than Baldur's Gate. Under these new rules, they wouldn't be able to produce it. You can't produce a D&D video game. Actually, under the old rules, they shouldn't have been allowed to do it, but now they're going to be enforcing it. Paizo Incorporated, publishers of Pathfinder RPG, one of D&D's largest competitors, declined to comment on the changes for the article, stating that the rules update was a complicated and ongoing situation. Chris Promise, founder and president of the Green Ronin Publishing, said that despite the fact that one of their own products, Mutants and Masterminds, was published under the original OGL in 2002 and is still available today, they have not seen the updated OGL and do not believe there's any benefit to switching to the one described. Well, bad news for them, there is not going to be a choice whether you have to switch to it or not. Wizards of the Coast declined to comment for the article or answer specific questions about the leaked OGL document. A spokesperson directed IO9 to a blog post the company published in December, which reassures the community that the OGL will not materially affect the majority of people working in the industry. That is the blog that I just read to you. What will happen to the original OGL? The original OGL granted perpetual worldwide non-exclusive license to the open game content, commonly called the System Resource Document, and directed that licenses may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content originally distributed under any version of the license. Basically meant that you could pick and choose which version of the license you wanted to distribute under. But the updated OGL says that this agreement is an update to the previously available OGL 1.0a, which is no longer an authorized licensed agreement. The new document clarifies that further that in the warranties section of this agreement, it governs your use of the licensed content, and unless otherwise stated in this agreement, any prior agreements between us and you are no longer in force. According to the attorneys consulted for this article, new language may indicate that Wizards of the Coast is rendering any future use of the original OGL void and asserting that if anyone wants to continue to use the open game content of any kind, they will need to abide by the terms of the updated OGL, which is far more restrictive than the original OGL. All right, Cap. It's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, I'm back now, pal. I'm going to be streaming an awful lot more. Who will be affected by the new OGL 1.1? If the original license is in fact no longer viable, every single licensed publisher will be affected by the new agreement, because every commercial creator will be asked to report their products, new and old, to Wizards of the Coast. Additionally, while the original OGL did not specifically outline what type of third-party creators could make available and profit from, the updated OGL is very specific. The updated license only allows for creation of role-playing games and supplements in printed media and static electronic formats. It does not allow for anything else, including but not limited to things like videos, virtual tabletops or VTT campaigns, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. Don't go dressing up like Strahd and dancing in the streets and expect to be able to make money off of it. Your Strahding and your dancing needs to be done for free. Oh, man. Let's see. You may engage in these activities only to the extent allowed under the Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or separately agreed on between you and us. Basically, it means that if you put out your stuff like your dancing and your videos and stuff like I'm doing, as long as you're not getting directly paid for it, you can do it. Clears up some of the language on Patreon and stuff like that. But yeah, it's basically the fan content policy is like it used to be. Like, you can't get directly paid for any of your D&D content, but if you put it out for free and then say, hey, pay me on the back end through Patreon, you're still okay. Yeah. So let's see here. The leaked OGL 1.1 draft indicates that Wizards of the Coast may not give licenses a lot of time to adjust and agree to the new policy. The document reads, if you want to publish SRD-based content on or after January 13th, 2023 and commercialize it, your only option is to agree to the OGL commercial. IO9 source indicated that the final version of the document was originally intended for release on January 4th, which would have given companies and creators 7 business days to comply. Now, here's the interesting thing. This document was leaked before the 4th. Wizards of the Coast has not said a single thing at this point, which makes me wonder if, because of all the backlash and the blowback, and that has been wide, it has been wide and it has been loud, whether they're not taking a step back and rethinking this. The OGL is divided into non-commercial and commercial agreements. The rules are slightly different if you are making money from direct sales or access to your work. The biggest change between the two sections is a tiered earning system, new royalties and rules for the use of crowdfunding. There's also some clarity given about Patreon and tips. Basically, if your content is available for free elsewhere, but people can support you voluntarily without having their access affected, you're considered non-commercial. But what you can't do is you can't say sign up for my Patreon and I can give you this these D&D character sheets, like these specific D&D characters. You can't do that because then the access to those characters are affected. Additionally, creators need to clarify and deliberately distinguish their content from licensed content. The new document reads that this must be done in a way that allows readers of your licensed work to understand the distinction without checking any other document. The OGL suggests a different color font or asterisk on the page, or putting a separate index list in the back of your licensed work that lists out what exactly you used from the SRD. Other parts of the new OGL document create a tiered system for categorizing licenses based off of revenues from commercialized work under the OGL. So basically, in the books, it used to be that you could just put the SRD in the back and be done with it. But now you literally, in the book, have to annotate in some form or fashion what exactly you got from the system reference document. So now, for these small publishers who are basically paying for words, like, you can't just throw that in the back of the book. You have to, it's how much more copy are you going to have to put in there to denote what is from the SRD? This is extremely restrictive. Will the OGL publishers have to pay royalties? Probably not, unless they're making over $750K. Licenses get to keep the money that they earn, but the OGL states that commercial agreement covers all commercial uses, whether they're profitable or not. So, if you get into the red on a Kickstarter that earned $800K in backing money, you will still owe Wizards of the Coast regardless of the fact that you did not profit from your venture. Note that if you appear to have achieved great success from producing OGL commercial content, we may reach out to you for more custom and mutually beneficial licensing agreement, the document notes, indicating that Wizards of the Coast is open to creating custom contracts and agreements, but at their discretion. This can indicate that subsidized competition like Pathfinder might not get a great deal. Now, we're going to get into the tiered revenue in a second here, but did you understand that part about whether you're in the red or not? Basically, they take the money off of your gross, not your net. So if you made 800 gross, but then you had expenses and you took losses, and basically you didn't make anything. If you lost money, you still owe money on that 100,000, quote unquote, or 50,000 above that 75. So you could end up owing them money because of Kickstarters and stuff like that, which is crazy. That it's not just it's not the gross, it's not the net, it's the gross. Yeah. So the revenue tiers are as follows. The initiative tier, if you registered at least one licensed work but haven't generated 50K, or more in total commercial products in a year, you're in the initiate tier. So that means even if you're not planning on making a lot of money, you still have to register stuff. Like if you sell something for 20 or 30 bucks and you only sell one of them, you still have to register. In immediate tier, if your license work has generated more than $50K in total revenue in a given year, but less than $750,000, you're in the intermediate tier. Expert tier, if your license work have generated at least $750K in total revenue a year, you're in the expert tier. If and only if you're generating significant amount of money from your license work, the revenue you make from your license work in excess of 75K in a calendar year is considered qualifying revenue. The nice thing is you're only responsible for paying them 20 or 25% of that qualifying revenue. The draft goes on to explain that if you make $750,001, you owe Wizard of the Coast 25 cents. They're only asking for the royalties on the $1 made above the $750K. But yeah, so basically no matter what tier you're in and how much money you make, you must register with them any new license work you intend to offer for sale, including a description of the license work. We also ask for your contact information on where you intend to publish the licensing work and its price, among other things. This is a significant change which allows creators to publish without reporting right now. While it makes sense that Wizards wants to monitor who is using the open gaming content, it feels like an impossible task. People are selling their work across dozens of platforms, and sometimes one product is being sold on multiple platforms. Whatever the reporting system looks like, the biggest burden will likely be on smallest creators. And it goes on to say that Kickstarter has become the preferred crowdfunding platform, and Kickstarter actually worked with Wizards of the Coast to get their royalties knocked down from 25% to 20%. And John Ritter, the director of Kickstarter, responded on Twitter, which gives this article some validity because until now nobody has mentioned this. So it's only because of this article that this even got mentioned. John Ritter said Kickstarter was contacted after Wizards of the Coast decided to make OGL changes. So we felt the best move was to advocate for creators, which we did. We managed to get lower percentages plus more being discussed. No hidden benefits, no financial kickbacks for Kickstarter. This is their license, not ours, obviously. So basically, you may only crowdfund for production of licensed works, and no infringing materials are giving out as perks and reward. Here's the last thing, and then we're gonna move on. I'm probably gonna So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up here, and then I'm gonna give my final thoughts on it. This is the real scary part right here. There is no mention of perpetual worldwide rights given to creators, which was present in Section 4 of the original OGL. And one of the caveats is that the company can modify or terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever, provided they give you 30 days notice. Wizards of the Coast also gets the right to use any of the content that licensees create, whether commercial or non-commercial. Although this is couched in language to protect Wizards products from infringing on creators' copyright, the document does state that for any content created under the updated OGL, regardless of whether or not it is owned by the creator, Wizards will have a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. There's a lot of implications in this extended policy, and the ramifications of this updated OGL could have a chilling effect on new licensed products, just like 4th edition. Basically, they can take your content, use it, reprint it, do whatever they want to with it, and they don't owe you a dime. And then, if they want to, they can turn around and terminate your ability to use the OGL. So, they can terminate your use of the OGL with like 30 days notice, or they can change the terms of the contract. Let's see. So it says Wizards of the Coast is clearly expecting these OGL changes to be met with some resistance. The document does note that if the company oversteps, they are aware that they will receive community pushback and bad PR. We're more than open to be convinced that we made the wrong decision. IO9 has reached out to additional publishers and creators, and we'll update this article and information. Blah, 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 blah. So, oh my goodness. So, that's it. That's the new updated OGL, draconian in nature, stripping creators of their ability to just create content is no longer an OGL. You're going to have to opt in no matter what level you're at. And the exodus from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is massive at this point. Not even 5th edition, from D&D 1. Basically, people are leaving in droves. Hey, Ma, how's it going? Yeah, so what do you guys think? It's quite... sorry, I got a message here. Yeah, it's quite nasty out there now. We could take a look at Twitter if you want. Take a look at some of these responses. What do you guys think? You want to take a look at what some people are saying? Let's go take a look. I just have to find my Twitter window here. Which one? Nope, that's not it. Nope. I'll find it. Maybe that means we shouldn't look at Twitter. But sorry. Yeah, so there's a bunch of people announcing that they're leaving from D&D. Pathfinder is my new best friend. Let's see. Oh, they've officially on the oh, sorry, my brain's melting down here. The Matt Mercer Critical Role. They are not allowing any talk whatsoever on the Critical Role sub about the new. They're not allowing any discussion of 1D&D or the SRD on the Critical Role subreddits. Wizards of the Coast has been completely silent on this whole thing. Let's see if there's any other interesting. No LGL seems like it's targeting other publishers, but I think that's missing the point. Might be collateral damage. It appears to me that Wizards of the Coast is eliminating the 1D&D's real competitor, 5th edition. They don't want the option for folks to stick with 5e after 2014. That's true. There's all different kinds of opinions. So it looks nasty. Something like EverQuest Affected. It's basically a D&D clone, and it's been around since 1999. Possibly, if it uses D&D rules, D&D rule set. If it there's certain bars and parameters it would have to hit to qualify, but I don't think they could stop them from. Have a great evening to you too, Mom. But I don't think they could stop them from producing EverQuest. I mean, it's grandfathered in at this point. But yeah, so that's it. So stay tuned to this unfolding situation. I think they're gonna cut their legs off at the hips, so to speak. Man, you're gonna see a real throttling. You're going to see a real throttling of creativity in the community. You're going to see a real pushback. They're going to see people pumping out other systems. I mean, the last time this happened in 4th edition, you basically got Pathfinder created. So who knows? I have a feeling people are going to create a lot of system agnostic games, and you can drive a lot of people away from D&D, except for the people who don't know anything about all this stuff. So that's I think I'm gonna call it there for tonight, guys. It's after 9 o'clock. I didn't get into the Dungeon 23. I feel like I was hoping to do that first because I wanted to get into the stuff that wasn't so good later on, but we got into that a lot sooner than I wanted to. But I think I want to attack the Dungeon 23 stuff when I got a full head of steam and I'm not all worked up and I'm not all sweaty. So we'll get to the Dungeon 23 stuff tomorrow. I am going to be streaming, whether it's just for 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes every day from here on out. So you get plenty of chances to see me and hang out and complain and make some dungeons together. So thank you all for coming back out tonight and catching up with me. Wu-Tang Wells, my buddy, here known as Shaolin Wells. Binky, good to see you. Cleet, thank you for coming and hanging out. Fran, it was great to see you. Cap, thank you as always. Slash, thanks for showing up. Not a bad turnout for being away for damn near 7 months. A-Ball, thank you. I love you guys. Well, metaphorically speaking, some of you I actually love. And remember, in a game of life, may you always roll with advantage. And I'll catch you guys later on.